Good evening, everybody. Hello or good morning if you're watching from the US. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Today is one of those weeks where I will talk about the Heart Sutra, the Hanya Shingyo. But before I start to talk, let's sit together for half an hour.
我们今天会讲心经，然后前面先坐禅半个小时。
So, thank you for joining. Let's get back to the Heart Sutra. As always, I would like to share the screen with you. For some reason, okay, now it should work. That's the one. For some reason, my laptop seems to be slow. Can you hear me? Is the connection okay? Okay, good. All right, now you should see the file that I usually share with you. We're right in the middle of the Heart Sutra. Let me read the text as it's usually pronounced in Japanese. Kanji zai bosatsu, gyojin hanya haramita ji shoken goun do issai kuyaku. When the Bodhisattva with the name Avalokiteshvara, which is translated as the Bodhisattva who freely sees or who is free to see, when this Bodhisattva practiced deep prajna paramita, which I explained,
Your microphone is doing the bad sound again. And now your microphone connection is not good suddenly.
How is it now? Now I should use the microphone of my laptop. Better? Okay. So let's work with the laptop microphone. Avalokiteshvara practiced deep prajna paramita. He completely or she completely let go, and in that moment realized that the 5 skandhas of form, perception, grasping, reaction to what we grasped, and the whole story that we built around that, all of that is empty. It's like a castle that we built on the beach, made out of sand. And this realization liberated the Bodhisattva from all suffering. And then, second line here, Shali shi, shiki fui ku fui shiki, shiki sokuze ku sokuze shiki, ju so gyo shiki yaku bunyo ze. Maybe the most famous line, Shariputra, Shariputra, you are the wisest of the 10 disciples of the Buddha. Don't you realize that form is not different from emptiness, just like emptiness is no different from form? Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is exactly form. And the same is true for perception, grasping, reaction, and the whole story that we tell ourselves. Shali shi ze shoho kuso fusho fumets fuku fujo fuzo fugen. Shariputra, as all dharmas are aspects of this emptiness, all things are a manifestation of emptiness. Therefore, there's no arising and no perishing. there is nothing that can be called dirty and nothing that could be called clean. There is no, how do you say, getting no increase and also no decrease inside emptiness. Ze kokuchu, mushiki mu ju so gyo shiki, mu gen nibi zeshin I, mu shiksho ko mi sokuho. And I think last time I explained this is the Buddhist version of what in philosophy you would call epistemology, kind of the theory of how we grasp the world, how we are able to understand the world. And basically in Buddhism, we have 6 senses, the ordinary 5 senses plus our consciousness. And Avalokiteshvara tells Shariputra that all of these are empty, or Avalokiteshvara even goes one step further and says, there are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no consciousness. And there are no forms to be seen, no sounds to be heard. There's no smell, there's no taste, there's no physical perception, and there are no things that are rising in the consciousness. And last time I said there are different ways you can try to make sense of that. For example, saying that all of these things that we see or hear are empty. Or you could say, don't bother about that. Don't get attached to this theory that you have learned. Or you could also say, just as in my name, Muho, no direction, also means open in all directions. When Avalokiteshvara sees, he completely sees in all directions. He sees everything. When he sees, he's completely seeing. When he hears, he hears. He or she is just hearing, complete hearing, without distinctions. So mu meaning not denial, but mu meaning being open in all directions would be also one possible interpretation here. And altogether 18 things are denied. The 6 sense organs, the 6 objects of what we see, and then in the next line, which starts here, Mugenkai naishi mu ishkikai. Mugenkai means the world of seeing, and muishkiskai means the world or the realm of consciousness. And here again we see difference in translation. The Hanya Shingyo, as I explained in the very first talk that I gave on the Heart Sutra, is usually attributed to a Chinese monk whose name in Japanese is pronounced Genjo. I think in Chinese it's something like Xuanzang. But this monk, Xuanzang, is usually more, how do you say, tedious, exact, precise when he's translating. What we see here is more the style of Kumarajiva. He was more elegant. He would omit things, and that's what he's doing here when he's saying the realm of seeing does not exist, and so forth, until the realm of consciousness. So here he's omitting the ones in between. Probably Xuanzang would also have said the realm of seeing does not exist, the realm of hearing does not exist, the realm of smelling does not exist, the realm of tasting does not exist, the realm of feeling, physical feelings does not exist, and so forth. So Kumarajiva cuts it short. That's more his style. Anyway, there's a correct character here missing here. Actually, I never realized that. We need a mu here. Mu genkai naishi mu ishikikai. And then the next line, mu mumyo yaku mu mumyo jin naishi muro shi yaku muro shi jin. Maybe before I explain that, I do the one that comes after that. Mu ku shu metsu, do. And those are the four noble truths. Suffering, number one, attachment, number two, that's the reason why we suffer. Three is the extinguishing of attachment. That's the third noble truth. So we suffer, and there's a reason to that, because we are attached. But we can deal with this attachment. We can reduce our attachment, and thus we get rid from suffering. And then number four is do, which means the Eightfold Path. That's a very basic Buddhist teaching. We suffer, there's a reason for that, but we can work with that, and we can practice the Eightfold Path, and that will get us closer to the liberation. And again, Avalokiteshvara denies all that. There is no suffering, and there's no attachment, and there's no reducing of attachment, and there are no Eightfold Paths. Again, I would say Avalokiteshvara is saying, don't be attached to that. You can get even attached to the Four Noble Truths. Forget about them. Don't be attached to those. And then before that, mumyo. Mumyo means ignorance, darkness. And loshi means old age and death. Those are the first and the last of the 12-fold chain of mutual origination, in Japanese called Juni Innen, the 12-fold chain of, how do you say, interdependent origination. And here again, it's short, only the first and the last are mentioned. So there's no ignorance, and also there is no extinction of ignorance. There's no old age and death, and there's no extinction of old age and death. For those of you who can read Chinese or Japanese or maybe even Sanskrit, I have the 12-fold chain down here. So for those who are interested, the first element of the chain is ignorance, darkness. And then the second is action, which arises out of ignorance. The third one, vijnana, is consciousness. The fourth one, nama rupa, is forms and names. We start to grasp the world. Loksho in Japanese, or sadayatana, are the 6 realms that we experience through our senses. Sparsa, soku in Japanese, means to touch something. So with the senses, we touch the world, and thus we get attached. Desires arise. So number 6, sparsa, means touching. Number 7, vedanya, means to perceive, to receive something. Number 8, trisna, I, is one word that can mean love, or in this case, attachment. In this case, it has more a negative sense, attachment. That's number 8. Number 9 means grasping. Number 10 means bhava, is existence. And number 11 is jati, birth. The first of the four ways of suffering: being born, getting older, getting sick, and dying. Number 11 is birth, and then number 12 is jara marana, which means old age and death. And compared to the Four Noble Truths, I find these 12-fold chain quite difficult to understand, because, at least for me, it's not obvious why it has to be these 12 elements And also, I don't know why they are arranged in this order. For me, it could be 10 or it could be 15, and it could be a different order. And in the long history of Buddhist philosophy, there have been many explanations, but I really haven't heard any that's really convincing why it has to be these 12 factors and why in this order. But whatever, again, Avalokiteshvara tells Shariputra, forget these also forget these 12 elements of the chain of mutually dependent, interdependent origination. Let's have a look at Thich Nhat Hanh's translation. The 12 links of interdependent arising and their extinction are also not separate self-entities. So basically he says all these 12 elements are empty. And then just a few more characters. Let's also do these 5 here. Mu chi, yaku mu toku. Chi means wisdom. Now we could discuss if it's the same wisdom that is meant with prajna paramita, which also means wisdom, or is it maybe a different form of wisdom? You could say it's also what is meant in Zen with satori, enlightenment, understanding. And Avalokiteshvara again says, no enlightenment, no wisdom. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and therefore yaku mu toku. No attainment and nothing to attain is one possible English translation. No 12 elements of interdependent arising and extinction. There are no 4 noble truths. There's nothing to attain. There's no attainment and nothing to attain. And maybe let me just do the next one before Shwan-san can translate for us. I mushotoko bodhisatta e hanya haramita ko shin mukege ko muukufu only issai tendo muso kubyo nehan. Because there's nothing to attain. I mushotoko, before there's nothing to attain. The question now is, what do the bodhisattvas rely on? If there's no 4 noble truths, if there's no 12-fold chain, if all of this is denied, what do the bodhisattvas base their practice on? And Avalokiteshvara says, because there's nothing to be attained, there's nothing to attain. The bodhisattvas base their practice on prajna paramita, on the practice of letting go. They let go completely, even satori, even their idea of practice, they let go. And thus, shin mukege, there's nothing in their mind left. They carry nothing around them in their mind, not even their Buddhist understanding, not even their satori experiences, not even the decades of Zazen that they have practiced. Their minds are empty. You could make a parallel here to Jesus' Sermon on the Mountain. Those who are poor. Hello? You can hear me? Okay. I think on the mountaintop, Jesus said, how do you say? The realm of God is there for those who are poor. And sometimes people say what he means here is poor in mind. Bodhisattva that has completely let go has nothing in his mind, nothing. Shin mukege, there are no obstacles in the mind. And because there's mu'u in the mind, mu'ukufu, there's no more fear. Why are we afraid? Why do we fear? Because we grasp onto something. There's something that I won't let go. My money, my health, my life. What happens when it's taken from me? But if you let all of that go, and please take it from me, you can have everything, then you have nothing to fear anymore. Mu'u kufu only issai tendo muso, and thus the bodhisattvas are liberated from all their hallucinations, from all their illusions, from all their upside down views. Kukyo nehan, and this is ultimate nirvana. That's nothing else than what is meant with the word nirvana in Buddhism. Okay, I talked a lot. Maybe Schwanzan can translate, and after that, if you have questions or things that you would like to share, please do so.
我简单跟大家说一下，就是老师把前面的复习了一下，然后今天讲了2句。前面一开头就是观自在菩萨行深般若波罗蜜多时，照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄。然后就是观音菩萨观自在菩萨他在非常深入练习的时候，才可以清楚的、自由的看到，就是五蕴皆空。我们之前讲了。哪五蕴我就不重复了，就好像在我海岸上、沙滩上面用沙子做一个城堡一样，其实都是空的。然后后面讲的是舍利子，色不异空，空不异色，色即是空，空亦色，就是说它的形状，形状也是空的。然后呢，空也是它的形状，这是我们之前讲过的。然后后面是受想行识，亦是如是。然后在后面呢，讲说这些空相呢，它其实是不生不灭，然后也没有洁净的，也没有不洁净，然后也不会增，也不会减。这些空相呢，就是它的形式，也是它的相。然后受我们的，就是后面讲的就是我们是怎样来认识和明白这个世界的，就是我们是通过6根，眼耳鼻舌身意。这6根对，这6根还有十八界，来认识这个世界的。然后但是这里后面讲的，其实我们是没有，就是你眼睛看到，耳朵听到，鼻子闻到，舌头尝到，还有你的身体感受到行，还有你心里想的呢，其实也都是空相。后面就是我们今天老师刚刚讲了。就是后面是，无眼界乃至无意识界，无无明，无亦无明尽，亦乃无老死，亦无老死尽。后面讲的苦集灭道，其实就是，他前面讲了，其实我们真正你眼睛看到这些，其实都是不存在的。然后后面无明，就是后面又讲了4谛。苦集灭道嘛，佛教里面苦集灭道4谛，其实这些也都是不存在的。那后面其实他后面讲到这个什么老死，什么无所得故，无义无德，其实后面他提到了是佛教里面的一个12因缘。那12因缘里面都有什么呢？里面有无明、行、识、名色、6处，还有处、受、爱、取、有、生、老、死，这一共12因缘。大家感兴趣可以网上稍微自己搜一下啊，里面有解释。然后为什么会是这12因缘，而不是10个因缘，或者是其他8个因缘？老师其实也是一直非常困惑的，为什么佛教里面讲的是这12因缘啊？但是观自在我们这个般若波罗蜜心经里面他讲的就是观自在菩萨讲的是，其实这12因缘我们也应该忘掉它。那我们所有这些都忘掉了，我们应该依靠什么呢？你看后面他就是菩提萨这字儿还不太认识，一般般若波罗蜜多故，心无挂碍。然后后面讲的就是你看无挂得故，无有恐怖，远离颠倒梦想，究竟涅槃。其实这个就指的，如果我们这些像12因缘，还有前面讲的6处、6根、18界，我们都没有依靠的话，那我们应该依靠什么呢？然后其实他就提到了，其实在这个世界上你是没有什么可得的。你看无挂得故，其实你是没有什么可得的，你也无有什么可牵挂的。如果你让一切随缘，一切都放手的话，就连我们坐禅想要达到的最高的禅定的境界，或者是练习这件事情，你都放下的话，后面他就讲到无有恐怖，就是你不会惧怕任何事情，也不会 被梦想所桎梏，究竟涅槃。刚刚这就是涅槃重生的时候，这个刚刚老师讲到这儿，然后大家有问题的话可以提。
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you for the translation. So if you have any questions, anything you would like to share, please feel welcome to do so. You can either raise your hand or start to talk just like that. Yes, Julian, please.
So would you say that the Heart Sutra is essentially saying drop conceptual thinking, move beyond conceptual thinking above all else? And in that matter, it really depends how we understand mu, doesn't it? As not being just negation, but as being the idea that our conceptual thinking is always overwhelmed by reality. You know, reality always overflows our needs to make a conceptual pattern, whether it's those 12 steps or the Eightfold Path or whatever. Because that understanding of mu is so key, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's basically the idea that you can't put reality into
a box.
And although the Heart Sutra doesn't really specifically talk about the practice of a bodhisattva, I think it's no accident that Avalokiteshvara, that bodhisattva of compassion, is basically playing the main role. He's the main character. So at least in between the lines, you have the message. It's not so much about understanding reality. It's about living that reality and, how do you say, being open for the others. So not a denial of our senses, but rather open your eyes. Shariputra, don't you see there's people crying for help? Don't you hear these cries? Rather than analyzing suffering and trying to be liberated from your suffering, hear those cries of those who suffer. That's not something that's written in there specifically, but that's what I read in between the lines of the Heart Sutra.
Thank you. Thanks.
So mu, yeah, certainly not denial. And interesting is Dogen Zenji's reading of that chapter that you can find in the beginning of the Shobogenzo. In some editions, it's the very first chapter, even before the Genjo Koan chapter, because he wrote it about 6 months before the Genjo Koan chapter. So the first chapter that Dogen Zenji wrote has the title Makahanya Haramitsu, which basically means the great sutra of Prajna Paramita. And there he, for each of these lines, for example, when it says Mugen Nibi Zeshin I, there's no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no consciousness. Dogen Zenji in his reading says, actually, there are 6 ways of prajna manifesting. There are 6 prajnas. What are these 6 prajnas? It's eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and consciousness. So consistently, Dogen Zenji, when he's reading the Hanya Shingyo, he replaces each of these mu characters with prajna. For him, mu is one with prajna, but prajna is wisdom that goes beyond concepts. So it's neither affirmation of the concepts nor it's a negation, but it's kind of getting one with that. And Okumura Roshi, when he reads the Genjo Koan, he has this book, Realizing Genjo Koan, I think is the English title. He is also, how do you say, relying a lot on this Makahanya Halamita chapter. And he says in the beginning, when Dogen Zenji writes in the Genjo Koan, first, when the 10,000 dharmas, when all the dharmas are Buddha Dharma, there is life and death, there is awakening and illusion, there's Buddhas, there's sentient beings. But then when the 10,000 Dharma are without self, there is no life and death, there is no enlightenment, no delusion, there are no Buddhas and no sentient beings. So first comes affirmation, then comes denial, and then interestingly in the third line again, the English translation is because the Buddha way leaps over lack and, how do you say, affluence, there is life and death, there is illusion, enlightenment, there is Buddhas and sentient beings. But Okumura Roshi says this affirmation in the third line, it's more what Dogen Zenji does in his reading of the Heart Sutra. It's basically the prajna. It's not, there is life and death, but actually in the original it says shometsu ari. So it says life, death. And it doesn't say Buddhas and sentient beings, but shobutsu, living beings, suffering beings, you could even say. So that's one way we can read this mu. It's affirmation, but not an affirmation that is contrasted with negation, but both at the same time, or reality as it is. Basically what Rinzai tries to communicate when he punches you with the fist. This, basically. Genibi zeshin in. Look, here, feel this. Sorry for talking so much when it's all about letting go of concepts. I still can't stop talking. So that's the Shariputra side of the story. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share?
I had some thoughts about relating to these ideas, and yeah, I was following everything you guys are talking about. It's going beyond the concepts, more than just negation. Another thing I was thinking about while we were doing Zazen that I hadn't thought about before, I was thinking about form is emptiness and emptiness is form. And another meaning in emptiness is that things are just empty of independent nature. So it means that everything is totally interconnected and cannot exist without dependent on something else. So then I didn't think about this before. When they say form is emptiness and emptiness is form, it's bringing everything back together again, I think. I hadn't really thought of that. The first time I met Muho, we were studying yoga and I asked him, is Zen like a non-dual philosophy like Advaita Vedanta? And he said, well, there is duality and non-duality. So that's kind of like a dual. So Zen is, I don't think it's right to say it's non-dual, but I think it's also not right to say it's dual either. It's like neither. So you do have the this game we're in, and then beyond, but ultimately it still doesn't have we don't totally exist separate, but at the same time, yeah, it's like I lost my train of thought, but it seems like it's somehow both dual and non-dual and neither dual and neither non-dual. Those were my thoughts today. Thank you.
I agree. I mean, that's one difference between Advaita Vedanta philosophy and Zen. Advaita Vedanta is pretty much non-duality. I think that's the meaning of the word itself. And Zen, on the one hand, it's non-dual, but from the Zen perspective, if you deny the dual aspect of reality, that wouldn't be non-duality. For non-duality to be really non-dual, you have to also accept the dual part. So there's no me and I, but at the same time, I am me and you are you. We are one, but also we are separate. And maybe in Advaita Vedanta would just say that we are separate, so it's just an illusion. In reality, there's nobody speaking to nobody here. Actually, all of this is just a dream. But in Zen, you take also the dream serious. If you call one a dream, the other is also a dream. If you call one reality, the other is also reality. And they contradict each other, but they are just as true. And I would say, for example, to have the compassion of Avalokiteshvara, you need dual thinking mind. And that's maybe why in Advaita Vedanta, ethics are not really a topic, because whom would we want to have compassion with? Nobody's suffering in the first place. While in Zen, you also take the suffering of the other person serious. And at the same time, you can say, but actually there's no suffering in the first place. There is no suffering, but you take it serious, this dream of suffering. So yes, I agree 100% with what you say. Zen is 100% non-dual and at the same time 100% dual. And if it wouldn't be dual, then it wouldn't be truly non-dual either. So from the Zen perspective, non-Advaita, those are the people who are actually dualists because they deny the reality of duality. They only want to stand on the standpoint of non-duality. But how can you do that without denying duality? While in Zen, you deny neither. Or if you deny one, you also deny the other. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Anything you would like to share? If not, I would say, yeah, thank you for joining. Next week, I get back to Sawaki Roshi's quotes to you. That would be the 29th. And then in 2 weeks, back to the Heart Sutra. And after that, I start for my trip to Germany. So it's 2 more times. And then I will be away for almost 2 months. I'm going to be back here at the beginning of October. I think it's going to be October 8th or so. But until then, you have to discuss with Schwan-san if there's going to be a class or if there's not going to be a class. But, well, next week and the week after that, if you like, join me for Sawaki Roshi's quotes and for the Heart Sutra. So, as always, thank you for joining. Thank you, Schwan-san, for hosting us, for translating, and have a nice week. See you again.
Thank you, Moho.
Thank you.